Hi everyone, Joshua here, joined by Chris Jack. I'm what seems like the last person left at the Tony Macaroni Arena. Finally, we have our Wi-Fi recovered, so apologies for a slightly delayed instant analysis. Hopefully it holds up for the duration of this video. Here to discuss Rangers 2, Livingston 0 in the Scottish Premiership. Rangers sign off into another international break in a little bit of a healthier mood than they did the last two times, I think it's fair to say, Chris. We're going to break down a few of the kind of key talking points from the game, obviously, before we do so in greater detail. I haven't watched it back tomorrow. But, Chris, I guess your instant take to it, I think it's a game where, bar a couple of VAR calls, Rangers maybe win it more comfortably. But they keep going under Clément, and after an energy-sapping night on Thursday night, important to get the win. And I thought, especially in that first half, it was a pretty good performance at this pitch, considered all things considered.
As you say, Josh, all things considered, it's a fairly pleasing afternoon for Rangers and another pleasing afternoon for the manager. I'm sure, given the way that he's spoken after every game, there will be things that he'll pick up on. There will be areas of improvement that he'll look for. But I think when you factor everything in, the pitch, the kick-off time, coming off the back of Thursday night, having to make the changes to the team, obviously some players still working their way back up to fitness, the situation in the title race, you add all those things in, and any win away to Livy becomes a really important one. I'm not saying you'll look back at the end of the season and think that was the afternoon where title momentum was really built. Now that was a key turning point in this. But it's just one of these games you just have to take care of, because if you don't come the end of the season, if you don't win the league, it could be one of those ones you say, well, those 3 points dropped there were really costly. All Rangers can do it at present is take care of their own business, win every league game heading into Parkhead, and they've managed to do that once again. I thought a number of encouraging individual performances. Team-wise, second half was slightly below the first. But you're then looking at Tav missed a penalty, a couple of the VAR ones I'm sure we'll come on to, debatable perhaps. So it was just one of those afternoons, 2-0 perhaps, doesn't really tell the true story of how the first half was for Rangers. If it had finished 3 or 4, I don't think Rangers or Livingston could have any real complaints, because Livy for the main offered very, very little in an attacking sense. Jack Butland will have had far busier afternoons so far this season, and he will have far busier afternoons to come. So I think when you look at all of it like that, it's 3 points down the road, and everyone heads into the break in a far more chipper mood than they did the last one just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, obviously, and not only that one, the Old Firm defeat kind of capped off the first international break, and then Aberdeen win the second. So, we'll be slightly more positive, as you say. Let's start with Ross McCausland, Chris. We've got some great content on the website coming about him this week. Just give me your overall reaction to his performance. We'll get into the VAR calls, but I thought he really took his chance. He was brave. He was direct. He could attack his man at either side, and I thought he made a really good impact and completely deserved probably the man of the match award for me, probably overall.
No, definitely. I thought it was a really encouraging performance from him. It's been interesting the last few weeks. Yourself and myself and Derek have done our predicted teams, and a number of times we've had this is the time that McCausland gets to start. You look at the number of comments we've had on the videos in the last few weeks. Everyone's saying, why is McCausland not getting the start? I think the manager has been smart in terms of how he's done it. He's drip fed him in. He's given him praise at the right times when he's been asked about it, but he's not overdone it. He's not, as Michael Beale did with Bailey Rice, we'll throw him into the madhouse and this boy's going to have a great future. It's interesting that we've not seen Bailey Rice at all recently, but we've now seen McCausland really go and make his chance. And again, it's someone who at 20, he's really on that cusp of, if he doesn't make it this season, he's probably not going to be a Rangers player, because his contract's expiring. And when you get to that age, it becomes very difficult. At 20, you're no longer an up-and-coming kid. You're not someone who's got a number of years ahead of you to try and make that breakthrough. It really was now or never for Ross this season. Got his chance under Stephen Davis, has really made the most of that chance under the manager. And while he's clearly not the finished article, he's clearly not someone that Rangers will rely on every single game between now and the end of the season. He's got qualities that can add to the squad. He's quick, he's direct. As you say, he can go either side. I thought he should have had his goal. Unfortunate for him that he's not. So there's a lot to like about Ross McCausland. As hopefully people enjoy the piece that we've got coming on him on the website tomorrow. It tells a bit more about his backstory and how he's really kind of gone from a promising kid at a very young age to someone who now at 20 is a Rangers first team footballer.
Yeah, I mean, his goal is a brilliant goal, and you see if that's taken off you on your Rangers debut. I mean, you must be absolutely gutted because it's a fantastic finish, and I think that touches on a theme that slightly went under the radar, and certainly I didn't notice it as much before he came into the first team, but that he is pretty two-footed. I thought just from watching him previously, maybe he's going to be someone who's quite reliant on moving inside the pitch, and he does have that nice natural balance where he can cut inside, and you saw this for the final 3 chances he created from the bench against Sparta, where he can open the game up and find the far side of the pitch, and he plays with his head up. You see a lot of young players who get into the first team and they're kind of head down and they maybe run up the wing, but he was able to pick a pass. I don't think it was a penalty, probably. I think it was a bit soft. It's one of these ones, Chris, where it's close to the sometimes players play for penalties, of course. I think strikers do it quite consistently. You get your body in. It's just a fact of football, isn't it? There's nothing controversial about saying that. And it was maybe on the kind of periphery of being one of those ones where there maybe was a bit of contact, maybe knew what he was doing. Fair enough. The McCausland's goal I don't think should ever be ruled out for that. What was that tug that Seema does makes from the defender inside the box, and to have that goal chopped off is an absolute signal. But as you say, aside from that, he was direct. He drove at his man quite consistently. VAR decisions, I always find it tremendously boring talking about them, but there was quite a lot of that today. You had the vantage point sitting at home, so I can pass on to you, Chris. But I mean, it could really have been 4-0 Rangers by half time, and it wouldn't really have flattered them. They had chances outside that as well. We should obviously talk about Dessers and Tom Lawrence, who came into the team and combined for the first goal. James Tavernier missed one penalty and scored the second, as he did against Hearts a few weeks ago. Another nervy moment for him, but he didn't make the same mistake twice. Give me a summary of the VAR calls from your vantage point back home, Chris, and what do you think was wrong and what do you think was right?
I think, as you said there, Josh, I thought the McCausland one just really, really harsh because he takes it really well. Now that's not a reason to then overlook any potential foul, but I just don't see where the infringement is. There's certainly not enough to chop off a goal in that one, so that I think is really hard. I think Ross is right to feel really harshly done, but I know that's something the manager and Cyril Dessers actually mentioned post-match that one was really unlucky. The Goldson one, Dessers is offside.
Yes.
How often have we said that, and how often will we say that between now and the end of the season? It's a shame because Balogun does well to put the ball back across. Goldson finishes it off, and at that stage, you think dream start for Rangers. That's as off and running. So I think that one was right. And I think that's the type of decision. There's been a lot of VAR chat over the last couple of days and few weeks, and there will be more. That's the kind of decision that it pays to have a second look at. You can tell. I was actually surprised it took as long for that decision to be made because it was fairly early on. As soon as Tav puts the free kick in, Dessers is offside, interfering with the goalkeeper. That should have been fairly clear cut. The McCausland penalty one, I think it's on the softer side of being a penalty.
Yeah.
To say there's no contact just isn't true. McCausland is caught. There is a bit of contact there. Whether it's enough to make him go down and whether it's enough to give a penalty, I don't think so. I think it is. I think it is soft, but there was a touch there. So no doubt, our opinion, and we'll be wrong on all the VAR ones, and the VAR experts online will tell us differently once again. But I thought a couple of them were perhaps a bit harsh on Rangers.
Cyril Dessers, I thought it was kind of a classic Cyril Dessers performance. You've got the good, the bad, the in between. The manager speaking in the press conference, which you can read or watch on the YouTube page and the website. You'll also be able to watch Dessers and read Dessers' press conference soon as well. His run was brilliant for the goal. His finish maybe slightly fortuitous. Tom Lawrence, I think, gives you that direct attacking style. And overall, Chris, I think that's something that Clément has just worked on quite simply. You saw it in midweek against Sparta as well. Rangers going behind teams, they're a bit more direct. They're happier to mix it up. And I think it will take time for the kind of more in the more methodical games where it's about breaking down a team that's camped in their old final third. I think it will take time to work out the solutions to bypass that. But certainly from the first few games, whether it be when the ball gets to Borna Barisic, he's got some limitations, I think, in building up because he can't carry the ball in the same way that maybe James Tavernier can. And often the thing that gets held against him is he passes it backwards. But that's because often what Rangers will do is they'll get the ball at one side, go back and around the block. And I think what they're doing that a lot less frequently, and they're getting the ball to Barisic, and they're using his strength, which is that, okay, he might not be the most progressive passer in the world, but he can fairly ping a ball, can't he? So let's hit seam on the channels. Let's get the ball into the striker. Let's mix it up quicker before the defence have time to recover. So I think the pace of play, that's probably something to flag, which has definitely improved. The second thing to flag before we go into Dessers is the fact that it's a real consistent theme now when Rangers open the scoring. They don't sit on the game. They're not satisfied with the tempo and think, okay, it's 1-0, we'll sit off it, make sure we don't concede for the next 10 minutes, maybe keep some possession. It's quite a consistent theme if you look at Dundee away, if you look at Sparta at home, if you look at Hearts in the League Cup semi-final. Once they get that first goal, they're still intent on trying to kind of add to their lead, especially when the opposition are vulnerable. And we'll come back to Dessers and my long-winded point, Chris. Danilo is Rangers' starting striker, and the only reason he didn't start, Clément said, was because he did 1,300 high-intensity meters on Thursday night, and there's not been much time since Thursday night. But you need competition, you need depth, and the squad is starting to look a bit stronger. Dessers, while still, I think, showing the good, bad, and in between, now has goals against Dundee, Hibs, and today against Livingston. So even there, a situation that Clément inherited that was one of the more difficult starts I've ever seen at Rangers. And while today wasn't a complete all-round brilliant striker's performance, I think it's probably still another step in the right-ish direction where, again, you see what you can do with his movement at points. His finishing still is a bit erratic for me, and he's caught offside pretty consistently. But they're going to need competition. They're going to need depth at the top end of the pitch, and probably another important goal for his confidence today against Livingston.
That's it. And ultimately, as you say, they're going to need to find a way of getting something out of Dessers, because you can't just go with one striker. The manager mentioned this hectic schedule of games they've got coming up now. A lot of games, a lot of different competitions, huge expectations on all of them. Danilo is not going to be able to play every minute of all of those games. Also, Kamal Roof's back in the squad, but who knows at what level and who knows for how long. Still, I think, huge questions over Dessers overall and the fee and the quality of him, but the manager can't write him off because he needs him, and I don't think he'll be able to turn them. I don't think Clément will be able to turn Dessers from the player that has been booed off at Ibrox just a few weeks ago and turn him into a guy that's going to be a mainstay of a Rangers championship winning side. But if he can get him to a level that he can score goals every so often and he can play a part coming off the bench like he did at Dens, if he can come in for games like today, if this had been Aberdeen away or Celtic away, no matter what Danilo had done on Thursday night, you'd imagine he probably gets the nod and gets asked, look, just go and try and give us a half, try and give us an hour, just try and get yourself through it. With all respect to Livy, it's Livy away and Dessers should be able to come in. So games like this, probably some of the games at Ibrox, he can have a part. He can have a part to play. He can have a role to play. He's not going to be he's not going to be as effective as Danilo. His movement's not as good. His touch is not as good. He doesn't look as natural a goal scorer. Rangers are going to be a worse side, if you like, with Dessers in that attacking role compared to Danilo. But that doesn't mean to say that they're going to be a less effective side in terms of winning the games, because there's still enough quality around about them. Like Steve Lawrence coming in, playing that pass. We've spoken a lot about Sima over the last few while. Even though his goals have dried up, he's still putting in a high level of performance. He's still doing a lot of work for the team. I think actually since you wrote that piece on him, his goals seem to have dried up.
I know. So I need to bear that in mind for the international break. But you're right, because I think, interestingly, what he was doing when I wrote that piece, which was just before Clément came in, he wasn't maybe doing as much. He was still working hard defensively, but outside of his goals, I don't think you could point and say, he's doing this, he's bringing that, but he was scoring goals, which is great. And I think that's kind of flipped now, where he's maybe, I've not looked at his stats recently, but maybe his touches, because at that point he was taking more touches in the opposition box than any of his teammates. I don't think that would be the case now, but I think he is playing as a bit more of a traditional winger. He's running and works so hard for the team, and again, that ties into the point, Chris, of the fact that Rangers just they have more of a direct threat. Whereas before at the start of the season, I think everything was kind of in front of teams. Des was actually said in the press conference, which is an interesting comment. He spoke about the team working on their structure at defensive throw-ins to score goals, which is where the first goal comes from. It's also where the first goal comes from, where the penalty, comes from against Hearts at Hampden. And those are small details. But and I wrote about this after the Hearts game, so people can read it if they want to, but while Rangers work on being a team who can really break down a low block consistently, you need to take advantage of any space you can to mix the game up, to attack the opposition when they do have to come out in games, because it's not as if an opponent is going to actually sit inside the 18-yard box against Rangers for the duration of 90 minutes. So it's an important point on Clément, because I think he has kind of defined that. To close, Chris, because it's getting pretty cold here, and we'll obviously have a lot of this over the international break, kind of looking back at the first month of Clément. He inherited a pretty bad situation, and we've said that the last 2 years when Michael Beale came in and Giovanni Van Bronckhorst came in, but arguably Clément inherited the worst of them all, and he's done a pretty good job so far. Now this Rangers team have started well under the previous two managers. In both occasions, Van Bronckhorst, I remember sitting here when he won the game 3-1. I think that was actually his first league game, and it was just before he went on that kind of really impressive winning run in the league. The signs to me look good. As I say, I think it will still take time for Rangers to become that team who have the weapons to consistently break down defences. There's big games to come up, and this squad have started well before, so you'd be reluctant to say that they're definitely going to achieve stuff this season. But from your vantage point, Chris, how do you judge this first month? How do you judge the mood now compared to the last international break? Because it was as low as I can remember it a few weeks ago for people who obviously watch the videos and are immersed in it every single day like us. But Clément can probably reflect, if he does take any time out of his busy day, which I presume he won't, can probably reflect on it a pretty job well done over the first month, and we'll be focused on trying to do that over the next few months before, next number of months before the end of the season.
I think if we're sitting here heading into the winter break and Rangers are still, they're put together, are on to win the League Cup, qualified in Europe, and they managed to perhaps even bite into Celtic's deficit, or bite into that deficit again. If they can tick those boxes heading into January, I think we can then say title race is on. Rangers could go on and win the Premiership. This squad still have a lot to prove. As good as the last couple of weeks have been, we've still to see can they churn out that 10, 11, 12 games, that run of games that's the mark of champions type, if you like. It's fine being able to do it in short bursts, but can it be prolonged? Can they win bigger games, if you like? Can they go to Pittodrie? Can they go to Parkhead? Can they then win the Old Firm games at Ibrox? Can they win cup finals? Can they win the big European games to qualify? There's still a lot for this squad to answer. I think if you look at the way the manager's gone about it, the way the players have spoken about the manager in terms of his bringing everyone together, the mood in the camp, some of the technical and tactical things that they might be giving us a wee insight into, there's a lot to like. There's a lot to be encouraged about. But it's still a group that has underperformed for longer this season than they have performed for.
Yeah.
That still has to be in the back of minds. But I think there's a lot to like so far. There's a lot to be encouraged about so far. If they can come through this really hectic run of games now and not get revert to type, then maybe we can sit here in about 4, 5, 6 weeks and think that there might actually be something in this season for Rangers, and hopefully of course, but then they have the first bit of silverware and a European progression in there as well. So there's certainly positive signs.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll be back to talk about this game in more detail tomorrow morning and all throughout the international break. Chris has an excellent piece on McCausland coming tomorrow morning, as mentioned, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Remember to subscribe to the website if you've not done so already. You can see the deal on the ticker below. Until then, I'm going to go and get warm because I'm absolutely freezing. Chris is going to go off and finish his article. We'll speak to you in the morning. Until then, thanks for joining.